Hi, welcome to another 5 Minutes of Hope. I'm the reluctant missiologist, and we've been talking about how to have unshakable hope in these times of trouble. Unshakable hope is rooted on the person of Jesus, his life, his suffering, his death, his resurrection. And out of that, God provides comfort, mercy, and a hope that is not shaken. As we continue to talk about this, I've been reflecting on Jesus and what he offers us is hope. It's and one thing he says in Matthew is this really interesting passage where he says, "Come to me, you who are weary and heavy laden," or in other words, you who have these burdens. I picture somebody just carrying this giant backpack that's just full of all this stuff that they're carrying around, and as they walk through life and bring this big baggage with them, is weighing them down. And Jesus is saying, "Bring it to me, because my burden is light." And he wants to exchange what we have as burdens, as cares, as worries, for what he offers. And really, it's not just, let me say that again. It's really not a way out of this life as much as it is a way of navigating this life in a new way. He's exchanging our way of thinking, where we see through the physical and the temporal way that this is hard. Life is hard. Things happen. And in today's moment, it is hard. But he's offering us a way of rest. And this idea of rest echoes throughout the Old Testament. It's the way that God promised his people the promised land, a place of rest. It's the way that Jeremiah, the prophet, reminds his people to look for the good way. Look for the path that leads to the way of God, that leads to rest. And it's not a rest that's somewhere up there at the end of life, in the next life, but it's a way of living in the life we have now in a way that is restful, even as we work. It's not a rest that's like, oh, sit down on the lazy boy and put your feet up and just relax. It's a way of living life in a way of rest. Um, and as I think about that, I think about the Jesuits. They have this way of life that they say, work as though it depends on God, which is very counterintuitive. Normally we think about work that like we work as though it depends on me. I gotta work, get this done so I can, turn this in, and we have all this activity going on in our life normally. We have all this activity and we work as though like if we don't do it, it's not going to get done. And the Jesuits, and especially their founder, Ignatius, he had this idea of working as though it depends on God. And it's this way of spirituality that we rest and we have times of reflecting, but we also have this idea of working, and that our work is done in such a way that whatever we do, God makes it happen. Whatever we do, we work hard because God's put that before us, but we put it in his hands for it to be done. And Ignatius, he's an interesting guy as we think about what's going on in Jesus' discussion of rest, because his coming to Jesus moment was as a soldier in Spain in the 16th century, a soldier fighting against France, and he was mortally wounded, and in his many days and weeks and months of recovery, he was in his home, basically stuck in his home. And it was in that time he turned inward and found Jesus and had this salvation moment where Jesus met him in a powerful way. And he had these interactions with Jesus where he really felt like this is what it means to follow Jesus. And he put together these spiritual exercises that the Jesuits continue to live by now, and this Ignatius spirituality that some call it. But it was in this time of reflection that he really drew close to Jesus and found a deep rest. But not a rest that meant he wasn't going to live anymore, but a rest that he lived the rest of his life in this very productive working mentality, but a work that wasn't built on anxiety of, oh, I gotta do it, or else it doesn't get done, but a work that was done out of a restful I don't even have the right word to put to it, but a rest that was peaceful, that was hopeful, that was optimistic, and the optimism that comes from knowing Jesus. And it was in his knowing of Jesus and finding Jesus daily in his life that he could work in such a way. And so as we face what's going on right now, wherever you're at, whatever you're going through in this time as you're watching this in your home or in your situation, there's still work to be done if you're working from home or if you are working out in the essential businesses or in the hospital or in public health. We can work in a different way. We can work in a way that depends on Jesus. We can find hope even in the midst of what we are doing now. We can see God in the midst of what's going on, or we can ask God to show himself in the midst of what we are facing. And so, in the light of Jesus' call to find rest in him, that he will carry our burden, our anxieties, our realities, just keep grabbing onto Jesus until we talk again.